Millions of people visit the Sagrada Familia every year. It's the #1 thing to see in Barcelona, and depending on the year, the entirety of Spain. But the Sagrada Familia is a bit controversial. You either love it or you hate it. And despite carrying an overall rating of 4.7 stars, there are plenty of people that have left reviews for the Sagrada Familia of just 1 star. I always tell people that if there's one thing to see in Barcelona, the Sagrada Familia should top your list. It's truly unique to the city, and you won't find another church like it. So it's always funny to me when I see reviews like this. One of the biggest draws for the Sagrada Familia is the length of time it's taken to be constructed, and it's still not done. And this isn't the only one. Many reviews complain about the ongoing construction that ruined their visit. But apart from the complaints about the construction, there are plenty of reviews that I feel, had people been properly informed before coming, would have drastically changed their experience. So in this video, we're going to take a look at some of the worst reviews for the Sagrada Familia, not just for a good laugh, and some of them are pretty funny, but so you don't make the same mistakes that some of these tourists did, and hopefully make sure that you have the best possible experience when you go visit as well. And stick around to the end, because I'm going to give you some of my top tips to enjoy your visit. This is one of the most impressive cathedrals in Europe and an absolute must-see. All right, so we're starting off well. The result of a devout genius that must be experienced to be appreciated. So why the 1-star rating? The tours are so mismanaged and chaotic that the experience is moo moo, ba ba, please form a straight line, moo moo, ba ba, moo, I want a gelato, ba. All right. Obviously, this person did not like the tour that went on inside. I highly doubt that any of the tour guides on the inside of the Sagrada Familia are saying moo moo ba ba or talking about gelato. But it looks like as a whole, this is a pretty good review, just not so high on the tours on the inside. But normally those tour guides are going to give you a whole lot more of an understanding and an appreciation of what you can see inside the church. Doesn't worth the price. From outside, very beautiful architecture, but from inside, looks like an Apple store. Nothing special. Tickets are just a robbery. All right, so this is the one that I think that people, when they give out, and you see it with a lot of people saying just stay on the outside, don't go in, don't think it looks like an Apple store. From the outside, the entirety of the Sagrada Familia is the Bible in stone. You get the story of Christ, his life, his birth, his death, but then on the inside, it's all about God and light. So I always argue that going over and checking it out is really nice to see, but you have to get inside to really take advantage of all the lighting and everything. It's just absolutely spectacular when you get to see the stained glass played off with that sun. And it's something we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk about some of my top tips. You need to purchase tickets online ahead of time. This is something that I've said over and over again, so this is really, really important. Make sure that you get those tickets online before you get over there. You cannot buy them at the door. Once you're at the door, they'll tell you to buy them online, so you might as well have done it before and save yourself the hassle. We only received our confirmation email and never received our tickets, so that we could not let us in. The only solution was to email their customer service. They only let you in up to 15 minutes after your appointment time. However, it took several hours for customer service to respond. Once they did respond, they simply asked that we check other email folders, which we had already done. There is an app, however, that asks for an 8-digit ticket ID, and we only received a 13-digit reference ID. It was very frustrating to have the issue with no one to help resolve it. We missed a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. That's really unfortunate. I'm still trying to get a refund days later. I have not had any response from the customer service email in days. If you go, make sure you have your tickets, not just your confirmation email, well in advance. There were several others at the entrance with a similar situation. Very disappointing. Now, if you actually go and you look at some of these, you do your own exercise, look at some of these reviews, there's actually quite a bit of this. So Sagrada Familia, if you're looking, one of the things that we could improve is getting that customer service to respond a little bit faster. But just like we said, you have to have your tickets before you go. Usually when you get that email and that confirmation email, you can download in a PDF those tickets, or if you have the app, you can download it there as well. But it looks like one of the big mistakes here, unfortunately, is going over there without actually having the ticket. Confirmation email is not enough. And what we're gonna see is that you do have that 15-minute window. So it's really important that if you know your time, for example, 3 p.m., you have until 3:15. So waiting to get an email back probably wasn't gonna happen, and they probably weren't gonna get in, which is really unfortunate because they didn't get to have this incredible experience. But it's one of the things that you need to know ahead of time, not buying your tickets there, and also making sure that you have that and getting in with that 15-minute window. 16 minutes later, you might be out of luck. This star is for how the church looks from the outside, and 0 stars for not being able to see it from the inside. Horrible management. Walked to this place in mid-August. It was so hot just to arrive and found out that tickets were only sold online through their app. Really? What if I had no data? Luckily, I had data. Great, I'm glad. So this is really a complaint about a non-issue, but unfortunately there was a 2-hour wait. Never encountered such a thing in any European country. 0 stars for the worst management ever. All right, so this is very similar to the other review that we saw, but like I said, you have to understand they don't sell any of those tickets at the door. Years ago, they used to sell those tickets at the door and people used to queue up, and if you just imagine wrapping around the entirety of the Sagrada Familia in a huge line, just like we said here in August, it was absolutely horrible having to wait for all of that. So the move to sell just online was really to get rid of all of those long lines and kind of make things move a little bit more quickly. So it's always unfortunate that people don't understand and aren't aware that they have to buy tickets online. But the issue with not buying them online before you get over there is exactly what happens. If you get over there and they don't have any available at the time you're there, you have to look for the next availability. So with 2 hours, you got to figure out something else to do. There's plenty of restaurants around there, and if you want to, one big tip, you can go down the street over to the Hospital of St. Paul, which is a beautiful modernist building. You can probably get in there pretty quickly without even having a reservation beforehand, and then come back those 2 hours after. But make sure you get those tickets online so things like this don't happen. This visit was miserable. Even if the architecture is magnificent, it's odious to offer a single ticket at 26 euros to have the impression of being a third-class passenger in the sinking of the Titanic. Indeed, if at this price we are graced with an audio guide per application to climb in one tower, you have to pay a total of 36 euros. It can be closed for renovation. Here we clearly support ultra-capitalist values that deserve to see the cultural coast of Catalonia and Barcelona degraded. It's overrated. Wow, a lot to take in right there. Obviously not a happy customer here. The price is high. You do have one of the higher costs within the entire city. 26 euros is the basic entrance fee. There are sorts of different discounts and things that you can get, but usually it's about 2 euros or so. 36 if you want to go up to the tower. And a lot of times, in a lot of the reviews, if you see a lot of negative reviews, sometimes it's about those towers as well, and is that visit worth it? I personally, if I go over to a church, I'm going over to those towers, going up just to get a view and everything. But you have to understand that the Sagrada Familia is not in the center of Barcelona, and it was placed out there because the land was very cheap. So the view you're getting is not going to be some crazy view of Barcelona. And realistically, you won't have the Sagrada Familia in it anyway. So if you don't go up to the towers, it's not something to worry about. If you go to buy tickets and the towers aren't available, getting inside and really just seeing that light and everything is the most important part. We were rejected to enter La Sagrada Familia, even we paid 3 adult tickets online in advance. We were late and got punished by not letting us enter, nor any refund. The young man and young woman at Gate D spoke unfriendly and impolitely in public to us. We felt very disappointed and furious by their bad attitude. We strongly suggest any people do not go there. There were a lot of construction work in progress. So there we go, another issue with the construction work. If you're going over there, you have to know, and it always surprises me because I think it's the one thing that everybody needs to know, is that it's under construction. So you're going into a construction site. But I don't know, that's part of the draw for me, that you're going and you're seeing it still being built 141 years later. You can take the picture from the outside entrance. It serves the purpose of this visit, as there are too crowded inside, in fact. Again, not worth it just to go to the outside. You can get some great pictures, but it's not going to be the same type of visit. Definitely get onto the inside. And it looks like here we have another issue with the people on the outside. Unfortunately, unfriendly and impolite, it says. I've seen that, and I've seen that firsthand. And it's not a defense at all, but one of the things that you have to think about with the amount of people that are going over there and everybody having the same issue, if you show up late, they're very, very unforgiving. So like I said, and we said before, 15-minute window you have, make sure you're there on time. Budget that time going ahead. It's one of the few tickets that you definitely need to get before, and you can plan basically everything else around that when you're here in Barcelona. It is just unfortunate that, that the security guards get a little bit upset, but sometimes I've seen a lot of people as well getting very, very upset with them just about the fact that they can't get in, which is rightfully so. Just think that how many times a day and throughout the entire year they actually have to deal with that. And I think that's a lot of times where that bad attitude comes from. Make sure that you do get onto the inside and you see everything. Make sure you're there on time. One of the most expensive entry fees in entire Spain and definitely most disappointing sights. Whole project looks like a joke. It's under construction basically from the start. Again, you're going into a construction site. It is not done. It's not finished. So there are cranes and scaffolding all around. Each new addition looks completely out of place. If you like cathedrals and all of the historical buildings throughout Spain, just save yourself the time and don't bother. It's better not seeing it and have an image of it as a beautiful building. If you don't see it, I don't know how you're going to get an image of a beautiful building, but definitely for me, it's one of those things that everybody goes around and they see so many different churches, so many different cathedrals throughout all of Spain. And when you get to Barcelona, it is just something that is so different. It's so unique. It's definitely worth your time to get over to. Just understand that there are some scaffolding and cranes. First saw this 16 years ago. It's a bit more complete in the intervening years. It's really changed if it was 16 years ago the last time that you saw it. Even in the last 5 to 10 years, been crazy amounts of changes. So it definitely looks a lot different than just a little bit more. It looks so impressive from the distance, but up close, the outside looks like a cartoon strip of the Bible, which I personally found to look cheap and tacky. From the outside, it's the Bible in stone. It's that story of it. One side is done under Gaudi's tutelage, the other was done under Josep Maria Subirachs, two completely different architects, and the third facade that will be done will be even more architects. But that was also the idea that Gaudi had, to have other people give their style and really make this place a whole lot better. I visited inside 16 years ago, but didn't bother this time as the queues were really long and it seems more tourist trap than anything else. It's taken 140 years not to complete this, and I'm not sure that it bears any resemblance to Gaudi's original intention. If you didn't go in, you wouldn't have known if it does or not, but it is under his original plans. In my opinion, just becoming a gross, tacky mishmash of conflicting styles and ideas. A real disappointment. If Disney did Catholicism, he would have come up with something better than this. So, high praise for Disney there. Why would you come here? A tourist church, well, it is a church, that is unfinished, all the abstract religious symbols a Catholic raised person can't understand. Don't know if she skipped. Don't know if this person skipped Sunday school or something, but there is a lot more to understand, a lot of things to see in there, and it really is interesting how that story kind of weaves in and out of those facades. An entry security point that is more strict than the airport, that's true. Definitely more strict than the airport, with a staff that barely speak either Spanish or English. Really doubt that they don't speak Spanish at the entrance, especially those security guards, and a ticket price of almost $35 per person. Do not enter. Look at this place from afar and be done with a must-see spot. So again, another issue with going inside, the price to pay, making sure you get pictures on the outside and not going over to it. Get inside, go check it out, and make sure that you that you are really getting the full experience. If you're there just to take those pictures, that's one thing entirely. But when we're traveling around, we should be understanding the significance, the idea of why this is such an important building, not only here in Barcelona, but Spain as a whole. So those are just some of the reviews that you'll find of those 1-star reviews of the Sagrada Familia. While some of them were good for a laugh and a little bit funny, there are some threads that you see constantly that are things that could be improved, not only from the Sagrada Familia, but also if you're going over there yourselves. And so to help you make sure that you are better prepared for that next trip to Barcelona and the Sagrada Familia, here are some of my top tips to make sure that you have a better time. The first thing, and I'll say it over and over again, is to make sure that you get your tickets online beforehand. We've already seen that you cannot get your tickets over at the door, and you only have a 15-minute window. If you have all of this and you know the time that you need to get in, a lot of those problems, a lot of those issues that we saw in those reviews can be avoided. You're not going to have to deal with the security guards. All you do is show them that entrance time. You go right in, pass through security, and you're into the church. You're also going to make sure that you want to use the Sagrada Familia site. I always say go directly to the official site of the Sagrada Familia, but if you're using any of those other trusted partners, you want to make sure that it's going to be a legit website that you're using. Things like Get Your Guide, Viator can be a little bit more trustworthy than some random site that you find. A lot of the other reviews, unfortunately, were for companies that maybe didn't exist, didn't show up, or they had all sorts of different issues. And you're not going to get a refund from the Sagrada Familia for that. It's going to be something from a different company. So make sure that you're taking all of that into account and you're avoiding all of those different issues that you can have. get there on time, and make sure that you're there within the 15 minutes of your entrance time. Next, I always think that you do need to get onto the inside, but a lot of those reviews are saying don't go in, just get your picture from the outside. If you are going to get a picture from the outside, there's a lot of different angles that you can get, but the best picture is always going to be over at the nativity facade. If you go behind the little pond that they have, you've got a nice view of that nativity facade and a really, really good kind of frame with the trees there already put into place. It is super busy though. Everybody goes over there, but you do get a great picture. You get some selfies or even a little bit of a pose, but you might have to wait a little bit so that you have that picture of just you right in there. One of the other questions that I get a lot all the time is when they should go over to the Sagrada Familia so you can avoid some of those crowds. A lot of times people don't like being in there with all of those people. I don't think there is a really better time that you're going to be able to avoid all of the people that are going over there with just how many people get to the Sagrada Familia. But I've always thought that if you go in the afternoon, you have a much better experience. I was actually there in the morning just the other day, and there were so many people all around. Some people say going in the afternoon avoids all the cruise ships and all of the different issues with people getting in there. But I think actually going in the afternoon gets you the best ideal view of the interior with the light. What you want to make sure that you see is the play of the stained glass windows with the sun. Gaudi has the Nativity facade where the sun rises, and he has the Passion facade where the sun sets. And when you're seeing the sun in the morning on the Nativity facade, you have blues and greens within those windows that really don't fill up the entirety of the church as much as those reds, oranges, yellows in the afternoon. So if you get there maybe a couple hours before close, you really have that sun coming down, projecting into the church and really filling everything up. And it's spectacular when you can catch it on a really sunny day. For me, the best time to get over there is in the afternoon. And if you really want to experience the Sagrada Familia without all the tourists, you probably want to go with one of the last entrances if possible. Once you get in, everybody kind of does the same journey over to the other facade. But if you get in through that nativity facade and then come back as everybody else has kind of moved on, you're just 100% by yourself and you can really take it all in. The other big issue is, are the towers worth it or not? Like I said before, I will always go up to a tower if I'm going in for the first time to a church at all, just so I can get some views. But the Sagrada Familia is not really close to the very center of Barcelona, so you don't get that great of views just in general. The Nativity is looking north out up the coast, and the Passion is looking south more in towards the city. They are small spaces. You do take an elevator up. There's not a whole lot of space to move around and get around and see. If you don't want to just even deal with that, then don't do it. Or if you find out that there's no tower tickets left, it's not something to really worry about. The main thing you want to see is all of that light inside of the church. So my recommendation, for me personally, I always do it, but if you don't do it, you're not going to be missing out on such a huge experience. And if you want to make sure that you can understand everything that you can see both inside and out, one of the things that you should definitely do is get a guide. If you really want to understand what's happening, the history, the significance, and all of the different iconography within that church, one of the best things that you can do is either have that audio guide helping you out, but for a full immersion into the experience, getting a guide is always the best thing. I offer tours over to the Sagrada Familia to help you understand the history around it, the history from before, and then understanding everything that you can see onto the inside. And my team of guides as well can also help you to make sure that you have such a better experience over there. But the biggest issue that I see over and over again with the negative reviews are people not being able to get inside the Sagrada Familia because they didn't buy their tickets in advance. Now you know, and you'll avoid that trap, but there are 14 other common mistakes that every tourist makes when they come over to Barcelona. And so that none of those happen to you, watch this video next.